guys, I'm Jacob. It's Friday night, so this is Friday Nights with Jake. Little bit different than what you're probably used to because I'm inside for a few reasons that I'll get to later. Hopefully my sound and everything is good. Let me check here. Let's see. No, that's not helping me. This never goes easy. Here we go. Turn my volume up. Alright guys, so our main topic today is going to be some updates for the channel, and then I figured we'd have to talk about the Florida shooting as well, because I figured it would come up. While I'm waiting for our live subscribers to show up, for people who are going to watch this when it's not live, we're actually going to talk about this Gsambassador Supreme Survivalist Z knife that I just got. Really excited about this thing, because I thought, I don't know if I have a larger knife in stainless or ever have had one that's really good to go. And the only one that I could really think of is the Gruntstyle Skrama in 12C27, but I don't have that. And what I did end up finding was this blade right here from Gsambassador Supreme. And it comes with this sheath, and it's an, hey, animals, be quiet. It comes in AUS 8A. Still, I'm not super familiar with an affixed blade, but we're going to see if it's tough enough to hold up. But what I'm really excited about, it's got a lot of great features. It's awesome in hand, came crazy sharp. And the sheath that it came with is pretty legit. We'll see if it holds up, but it comes with a setup to perfectly hold the new Beach and Tactical R&R and Sear pouch here. Holds it super secure, easy setup. It's super modular. It's nice. This is the nicest I've ever had this pouch set up on here. So a few people knew about Gsambassador Supreme and said that they didn't like them because they only do hollow grinds. Well, this is not a hollow grind. We got a saber grind on here, 5mm thick, just I think a hair under 3/16. And we're gonna see if this full-size stainless steel knife actually does hold up. All right, we've got a couple people coming in. Joseph, good to have you. Cobra, I am well. So in the description box below, we'll start going to the channel updates. You will see that I've made some really big changes in the last 1 or 2 weeks. The first one came not too long ago that I'm really excited about. I think it was last week. And that is I became a brand ambassador for Gruntstyle. So you guys have seen me wear their clothes for as long as I've had this channel, I think from the very beginning. When I got married, I like Gruntstyle stuff, and usually Mariah would get me a shirt or something special for special occasions like birthdays and Christmases. And I noticed that they had been using one of my pictures from Instagram as advertisement. They used it for about a year. And when I came to realize that, I was like, I should probably send these people an email and see if they want me to be a brand ambassador, because obviously they already like my pictures well enough to be using them. So I did, and they were excited to get me on. So I've got this brand ambassador link in the description box below. I think it's going to be a great way through YouTube for me to make a little bit extra money without corrupting the content of the channel, because I'm not doing t-shirt reviews. I'm just wearing the clothes that I like. You can get a 10% discount using the coupon code in the description box below. And if you buy through my link, then I get 15% of the proceeds. And I think it's gonna be a good thing for this channel. What's up, Joe? Great. The other thing is I did start a Patreon, and I've already had some wonderful patrons. And so I know it's a really polarized topic. Some people hate the idea of having a Patreon. I'm going to try not to, in my videos, grind that on people. I will have it in every description box in every video from now on. I will talk about what I want to accomplish through Patreon, and I'm working on how to promote the Patreon and to have benefits for my Patreon subscribers. $1 or $2 a month, if I get a couple supporters that are willing to do something like that, could go a long way. And the first thing that I want to do through Patreon is I want to save up $131 on Patreon, which would exactly buy me 2 K-Bar Mark II knives. One I would use to test, and it would eventually be broken, so you would see at what point it was broken. And then the other to give to one of my patrons or patronizers. I think I'm the patron, however that works. And so in that way, you will be getting a review that's not funded by anyone but the people watching. And talk about that a little bit in a second. But I'm pretty excited about that, so if you want to see what that's all about, I've got a link for that in the description box below. Mr. Nava, wonderful to have you. Thank you for stopping in. Mr. Luta, if you guys, in case you don't know, Mato Luta here, I probably killed that, I apologize, but he does some awesome SE customizations on the SE page, always knocking it out. So, I've been hearing a lot about people talking about how they hate Patreon recently and how it will be the death of YouTube channels that use it, and how it's like begging for money, and how people feel that it is better to keep YouTube free for viewers and to get paid through sponsorships and Amazon links and Amazon stores and through YouTube AdSense. Well, I'm not using YouTube AdSense anymore because for every $1 that I make through YouTube AdSense, Google's also making $1, and they're a bunch of communist bastards, and I don't want to make them money. So I'm not doing AdSense, and I'm not going to take paid sponsors, because how can you trust the information that I'm giving you if I'm being paid to give it to you? That doesn't make sense to me. And so why I came to YouTube is, to me, this was a grassroots source of information where I could find unbiased reviews, unlike what I'd read anywhere else, because everywhere else everybody was bought off by sponsors. Well, if you bring those sponsors into YouTube, how could you be honest? So I'm going to try and keep this channel grassroots and make money through doing other things that won't affect my reviews, such as being a brand ambassador for Gruntstyle, such as Patreon, and my personal business is Beach and Tactical, and I will be promoting that because I think I make the best stuff on the planet. Or in the case of these sear pouches, I designed these pouches, and actually these are going to be made and are made by my friend in Ohio, Gadsden Dynamics. I made a few prototypes. I wasn't really happy with how they turned out, but I knew that the design was solid. So I talked to my buddy Andy, because he does great work, and so I'm going to be contracting him to make these. So they're made by an awesome dude in Ohio running a small company, and he did the improvement of this clasp. I'll go more into detail in its own video. Bottom line, these are going to be the best Altoids tin pouches on the planet, in my opinion, because I designed them based on what I felt was missing from existing stuff. So, all right. Van life, I am well, and it's absolutely my pleasure, and that's what I'm here for, is giving people advice. The sear pouches are actually currently available on the website. The price used to be a little bit higher. I'm kind of having a hard time pricing the sear pouches because the benefit to me not making them is they're higher quality and I can get more of them made. The detriment is that I have to pay to have them made in quantity. It takes a lot of money. So I had the prices higher, and I'm trying to bring those down right now, and so I'm still working on things. I've only got a couple for sale because of my first batch that I've got. A lot are going to be going out to active friends who in the reviewing community through Instagram and YouTube or whatever to try out and see, make sure they like them and stuff. So right now, I'm definitely in a money losing situation, but the end goal is that you guys get the best product Lord willing at the best price. So they are available now on beachandtactical.com in this cool woodland BDU pattern, in coyote and OD green, and in coyote and multicam. So Joe 77, the M9 bayonet. There are a few manufacturers that made the M9 bayonet. What do I think about it? They are not issued to troops in the field. They are military issue, but troops practice with them a little bit in basic training as far as just playing around with basically nothing, and that's the extent of it. And what do I think about them? As a bayonet, I don't really know. I've never had an actual fight with one in combat, but I'm certain that you can poke somebody with it. As a knife, I think that they really need a lot of help. They have a fairly thick edge. It's an asymmetrical edge, a black phosphate finish, or a parkerized finish. You know, you're gonna have to really, if you want to make that work as a knife, you're gonna have to spend some time with the edge. You're gonna have to deal with a lot of things that are less than ideal on the blade. What do I think as far as overall quality? I think it's gonna do whatever you need it to do without breaking, but ergonomics and ability to perform knife tasks on par with similar blades, I think is lacking. Get out of here, cat. Okay. I've had a few of them. I sold all of them. The Marine Corps version, the OKC-3S, is a superior bayonet and a superior knife. Get, cat. But they're a little more spendy, a little bit harder to find, but they're still not a great knife, so it's not, you know, it is what it is. So, all right, so that's it for the channel updates. That's how I'm trying to keep the content honest by making money without accepting cash from manufacturers. And I do need to find other ways to make money on YouTube. Oh, hello, cat. Because I spend a lot of time out here, and I can't do it for nothing. I mean, it's a crazy amount of stuff that goes into it. So, hello, Rick. Let's see. I appreciate it, Van Life. That means a lot, man. So, this Florida shooting, I want to talk about it a little bit because I've kind of put together a different perspective that you're not probably going to hear with social media. Okay, get down, you fat beast. That you're probably not going to hear on social media, and you're certainly not going to hear in the media. But we do have a lot of problems in this nation, and a lot of them are connected. We do have a mental health issue, and people want to blame that. We do have a racism issue, mostly against white people, and people want to use that as a reason. Actually, people just want to blame white people, but we have just a myriad of sociological and socioeconomic problems. But what I want to tell you guys is that what you're seeing with these problems in instances like this Florida shooting, what you're seeing is symptoms, not the cause. So no matter how many symptoms you treat, if you never treat the cause, you will never solve the symptoms. And the bottom line for everything is responsibility. And the erosion of morality and responsibility is what inevitably leads to all of the problems that we're seeing today. There is an agenda, and these tragic events are used to push an agenda. And if you want to see what the goal is, you look at what they advertise. So just today, they're talking about how on YouTube he was flagged as saying that he was going to shoot up his school, and he was flagged by the FBI, and everybody knew he was going to do it, and they did nothing about it, and we need stricter guards. So what are they trying to accomplish? They're trying to accomplish more spying on U.S. citizens. They're trying to accomplish more influence in YouTube and social media and everything else, not for your benefit, but for their benefit. So I'll do a full video on that a little bit later and answer questions as they come on that. For now, for a little while, I'll just go back to random questions, and if that pops up again, we'll do it to it. So, knife sharpening videos. I will do a knife sharpening video. I am weird about YouTube, and so the more I like something, the harder it is for me to do a review on it, because I feel like, man, I really love this product, and I need to do something elaborate. I need to do something crazy. I start getting all of these ideas. I'm going to do all this stuff. It's going to cost me all this money. It's going to take all of this time. And then I end up just not reviewing it for 6 months and then doing a normal review anyways. I really struggle with that. And so one of those things that I've been putting off for a really long time is my Idaho knife sharpener, because you can literally take someone with absolutely no knife sharpening skills, give them an Idaho sharpener, read the directions, and you can make it work. I know from personal experience. And so I'm going to do a video on that. It's literally not going to be an educational video, because the directions are going to be better than I am. I'm going to be showing off the product because I really believe in it. And the other thing is, I've just figured out how to strop blades. I'm not the best at it yet. Because I'm not the best at it, I have a difficulty doing a video on it, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a video on stropping, and then I'm probably going to link people elsewhere to people who are better at it, so that they can watch their videos, but I'll give them the down and dirty that got me started. Hopefully I can do it quickly, so someone who has absolutely no experience can watch my video. They can probably figure it out, and if they want to take it to the next level, then they'll have somewhere else to go. I think that's how I'm going to do it, but I don't want to do the video from a perspective of authority if I'm not very good at the topic. So, Mr. Russell, glad to have you here, buddy. So, we have, to get back to the Florida shooting until we get more questions, we have a sad situation because people have lost sight of what they're responsible for. You can delegate a task, but you can never delegate authority. So, if I tell you, if I am in a position of authority and I tell you to do my task and you mess it up, it's my responsibility still. In essence, the police chief, well, we'll talk about military because it's the easiest to understand. If I'm told that the front yard has to be clean and I tell 10 privates to do it and it doesn't get clean, are those 10 privates going to get in trouble from who told me to do it? No, I am. And since I didn't make sure that they did it, I'm going to get in trouble. Now, of course, how the military works is I'm going to roll that down to the privates and get them in trouble. But ultimately, the responsibility will be mine and I can't say to the commanding officer or person who told me to accomplish the task, oh, well, they didn't do it. Well, that's not their concern. They told me to do it. In similar manner, our personal safety and well-being is our responsibility. As a parent, the safety and well-being of your children is your responsibility. Now, we've come to a point in this nation where it's normal to send your children to school with zero security, zero firearms, and the majority of people aren't personally invested so much in how much their children learn, let alone security, because they try to give that responsibility to somebody else. You can't do that. If your kid's a screw up, it's not the government's fault, it's your fault. Likewise, if you're not worried about your children's safety in a gun-free, unprotected zone and they got shot up, they're still your responsibility. And so what's the worst part about this is when this tragedy happens, the parents aren't going after the schools. They're not going after the absolute lack of security. They're going after the gun, which makes no logical sense at all. They're looking for excuses for the responsibility that they've already been trying to get away from. So it's linked into healthcare as well. Okay, Cobra. All right, what happens with the knife from Ultimate Survival Dave? All right, so the MSK1, this week or the following week, I'm going to finish testing that, and I'm going to do a chopping comparison on the table of destruction. Lots of people are going to be mad because they're going to say that I threw the competition or that I purposely didn't chop as hard with the MSK1 or whatever. My subscribers are going to know that that's not the truth. But what we're going to do is we're going to compare the MSK1 to a hatchet head-to-head with all variables controlled. But we're also going to compare the MSK1 to two knives of the same weight as the MSK1. I don't know why every animal in the house just thinks that they can annoy me right now. I'm not here for you. Get it. So, I'm going to give an accurate representation of how the MSK1 can actually chop. With that being said, I know that it's not going to be good. I will give it I'll give it my all, but I guarantee you it's not going to stack up at all. It's really a terrible setup. After that, I will probably be sending the knife back to its owner. It's not mine. I would like to break it. That'd be pretty great. But the bottom line on that blade is it is a heavy hunk of steel that is designed in a way that makes it efficient at nothing. It can do a lot of things, but anything that it can do, something else of the same weight can do either better or way, way better. It does have some redeeming qualities, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't cut it. So, how many pets? Oh my gosh. I never thought I'd have a single dang pet. Come here, Jimbo. Up here. All the way. Come on. All the way. Come on. Fat. Oh, you're so fat. Okay, so we've got this one. This is Jimbo, the adventure dog. You guys might know him. Come here, Ruger. And this is Ruger. All right. This is the wife's dog. So we have 2 dogs in the house and 2 cats in the house. And the first cat is great. It is the best house cat that has ever existed in any home in the entire world, in the history of the world. Besides the fact that he vomits too often. Just an incredible house cat. This new cat, her name is Trash Potato. And we heard meowing outside one night, and we walked out, and she was a kitten about this big, and unlike the kittens that usually do that, she actually came to us. We could actually capture her, so we did. We took care of her, and I guess now she's an indoor cat. She's pretty good, but she's kind of also terrible and annoying. Outside, we have currently 13 chickens, 2 goats, and another dog. The Great Pyrenees to watch over the goats. So, to quickly answer your question, way too many pets. Like way too many pets. So, special ed, cats give you toxoplasmosis. I don't know. Cyclist 01222. What do focus video stream offline? Alright, I don't know why it just said video stream offline, and I don't know why it says very bad connection in my own dang home. Criminal justice, focus on homeland security. So I just finished that up. That's a really big deal for me. So my time's going to be opening up. What's great is that right as I finished and my time started opening up, I started getting swamped with work. So I've been making slings like mad. I've got to send a bunch of these pouches out to people. So I'm staying busy. It's wonderful. I also got a bicycle, and I'm going to start bicycling to get into shape. I think I talked about that a little bit. But that's what I'm doing. Okay. The new Essie Gibson axe. Essie's come out with their first axe. And it's supposed to be a carving axe. From what I've seen, a lot of people have been very skeptical of it. It's got scales that are sculpted similar to the PR4 in the same color, and it's got a black wash finish. I actually don't know yet what its thickness is or what steel it is, but I'm assuming it's 1095. I think it's going to be a good little axe for small chores. It is a carving axe. People have been complaining about the way the handle doesn't go all the way up to the head. I think that's going to make it more versatile, and I think choking up on it and carving with it is still going to be very comfortable. We will find out. I actually plan on doing a lot of videos in the future of knife reviews while I'm carving a spoon or Cusca. I think that that's going to be a really good way for me to show you guys and talk you through my thoughts on the blade as I'm doing work with it, because I'll learn a lot about smaller knives doing that. And so I think that that little axe would probably be great for that. I'm excited about that. So let's see here. Jimbo, stop it. Why don't you guys go to your mom? Huh? Get. All right. Whew. So here's the other issue. All right, I'm going to go back to the Florida shooting because that's what I have to do. The U.S. has had universal health care since 1989. And for some reason, everybody's doesn't care about the fact that we've had universal health care since 1989, and it's a crime. But the best thing about the current state of our healthcare system, along with our educational system and insurance and basically everything else, is that I can directly blame the government for it because it is a part of the government now. So now all of our problems are all directly, not second or third hand, they're all directly linked to the federal government. And that's great for simplicity's sake. So you have a huge population in the U.S. that is on antidepressant medications with side effects that could include suicidal or homicidal thoughts. So what's going on is we have pushed a drug culture with zero responsibility in the community. You have people through drugs or alcohol who permanently chemically mess up their brain. They have a chemical imbalance in their brain from the stupid decisions that them and their friends all think is cool, that the media and that Hollywood and that music have all told them is cool, while like on the outside trying to say it's not cool, but really they are. And then so you send these people who have this chemical imbalance to the government, who gives them pills with the side effect of depression and suicidal and homicidal thoughts, and then they kill themselves, especially in the case of veterans or other people, and then we blame the tool. And then we try to take the tool away from people who have no problems with the tool, because the people who don't care about the law or anything else is absolute buffoonery, absolute foolishness. And it's all by design. And like I said, if you want to understand why, you look at what they promote and you look at history. And it's very, very clear. It's very, very simple, especially if you put yourself in the place of a government with bad intentions. Then it becomes incredibly clear. But to do that, you have to accept that the government could have bad intentions. Accepting that the government could have bad intentions means that you're personally responsible for your own well-being, and you're personally responsible for your nation all of a sudden, and responsibility is what everybody's running from. So that cannot even be a possibility in their minds, because that's the exact reality that they're avoiding. Okay, so Jeremiah, so you have 3 indoor-outdoor cats. I grew up with indoor-outdoor cats, and I think it's great. Mariah thinks it's disgusting, because she never grew up with that. And it's so funny, her family, they let the dogs out, and then when they come in, they all have to have their paws washed. It's this whole ordeal and stuff, and it makes sense to me, but it was very weird to me at first. So that's probably why, but I tell Mariah that cats are awesome because they clean themselves. But I didn't really used to like dogs much, and now I do, so a lot has changed. So my buddy Red Gat, everybody should subscribe to his channel, and he talks the truth about a lot of things. Asks me if the Gruntstyle Ambassador thing was something that I had been working on for a while, or if it just came up. Well, I've been wearing Gruntstyle clothes for like 3 years, and they used some of my pictures that I tagged them in on Instagram in their marketing. So I tagged them, they reposted my picture from Instagram, and then they used my pictures for their marketing on Facebook and all of this other stuff. And so, and I was so used to seeing it that I didn't even realize it until one of my friends sent me a screenshot from Gruntstyle that had my face on it, and I was like, oh yeah, they do that. And so then just all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to send them an email. So it was just kind of all of a sudden. Cyclist. So TRICARE is hit or miss. In my experience, obviously I was on TRICARE before I was in the military. Now I'm just in the VA system, but Mariah has no coverage. Now my dad's running into issues because he's TRICARE and he's got like 450 years in the military and he's about to retire in a few months. But my mom has dental issues and she still has co-pays as his wife. So even though they have TRICARE, every time she goes in to get seen, it's $1,000 or $2,000, and it's starting to come up to where it's often. And so you're lucky to have TRICARE if you're near a good medical center. that accepts it. If you're not, like myself, you can end up in a few difficult situations. Maybe someday I'll do a YouTube video where I just talk to you guys about when I blew up my hand here. But anyways. Aggressive Eagle, it's my pleasure. Joe, serious social system breakdown. The thing is with the serious social system breakdown, you are right. There's no question, there's no argument, but it's all by design. And so, and it has to be by design. There's no getting around it. And you look, World War I was fought with zero income tax. And you look at the progression into these socialist safety nets, which I'm not against all socialist safety nets. I am against about 99% of them, and I am against the way they're being implemented. I do not consider Social Security to be a socialist safety net because they're being forced to pay for it, which I think is wrong. If you can't save your money and you get old and your family won't take care of you, you made some pretty serious life decisions. That's responsibility. But if the government's going to force you to pay for Social Security, that's not something they can take away. That's not something where they can decide like, oh, well, you've been paying on it for 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, but we're going to give it to these illegal immigrants. You're in danger of losing it. That's theft, which all taxation is. But anyways, got a little bit off topic, but looking through the history of how the socialist system has grown, even in the 60s, even before that, and how culture has been carefully and slowly directed. They say the devil's in the details. It's a very scriptural saying because it's incredibly true. We not only see it in Scripture, but how Scripture is twisted today in the details, but also through our society, you can see purposeful manipulation, specifically the term for that is propaganda. And so, the societal collapse that we're going into directly correlates with the power and corruption of the central government. And all as well. They're directly correlated. So, all right. Yeah, well, I've been told that I should get on Obamacare, and I would be in a better situation if I did, but I would rather them try to take my money because I wouldn't pay them. I'd rather see them try than get on Obamacare because I'm stubborn. So they're like, hey, you could get on Obamacare for free, and you should probably do that to supplement your VA health insurance. Screw them. The VA health insurance to me is a way to not have to pay for Obamacare. But even if I didn't have that, they can screw themselves. But it is a wise decision if you're not overly stubborn like me. Wow. So Jeremiah, you've got some pretty serious kitten production action going on. Come here. All right. This is Trash Potato, and she's the one that was the size of a peanut that just showed up on our doorstep. Our other cat actually also was feral, and even when that cat was feral in a litter of cats that just wanted to scratch your eyeballs out, you could just pick him up like a rag doll. He'd just go limp. He's incredibly intelligent and incredibly docile, and he's an incredibly good hunter. But we got him fixed, and now he's getting fat. But anyways, well, before I get too deep into talking cat, why is it that cats always want to show you their bung? Like walk up to you in bed, bung in your face. Like why? Why do you do that? You could just not. So, yeah, dude. So, okay, with the Gruntstyle affiliate program, I get 15% of sales from people who use my link. But then if you get accepted into their program, which probably isn't very difficult to do, and anybody that wants can send me a message, I can tell them about it. You get a little gift certificate, and you can buy a little bit of Gruntstyle gear so you can show it off. So I got this and some Ranger panties. If you guys have watched some of my older videos, I have worn Ranger panties in the past and will continue to do so in the future because they are freedom. So yeah, hopefully I can get the word out and they can sell pretty well through my link, and then I can get some more gear and get a little bit of money to boot as well. So I am a fan. Thank you. Yeah, it must be a compliment. Like, hey, man, look at this action back here. I don't get it with the cats. You're a freak. I'm gonna put you down now. All right, guys. So, do any of you guys have specific questions for me about the channel's direction, the Florida shooting, the Kislyar Supreme, what I hope to do with it, the Beach and Tactical pouch, or anything else? Oh, what did you rub yourself in? Do you got dead animal on you? Get out of here, you stinky. Get. Go to mom. No, get. You're bad. Neoconservatives. You know what's really sad is neoconservatives got neoconservatives. Alt-right. It's not conservatives. They might have some conservative values, but a lot of these organizations are socialist, or some of them are actually fascist. You can't be fascist and say in truth, if you are a thinking individual, that you hate communists. If you're a thinking individual, you can't be a fascist. And on the flip side, as a thinking individual, you can't, as a communist, say that you hate fascists. And as a thinking individual, you cannot be a communist. Because what we are being taught that makes no sense is that fascism and communism are opposite ends of the spectrum. The reality is that they're both slave states that enforce the exact same type of society, and they are both on the opposite end of the spectrum of freedom. So the alt-right movement hijacked conservative symbolism and is just another liberal group of people. It's really sad because, you know, people are like, oh, I'm not Republican or Democrat, I'm centered. Okay, if this is your political spectrum and communism is over here, or statism or totalitarianism, and anarchy is over here, then center is here, and Republican and Democrat are like over here. Center is so far right of Republican anymore, a constitutional libertarian party, which the Libertarian Party is not, is so far right of conservative, because the Conservative Party, by definition, the Republican Party, by definition, is socialist. The Democrat Party is communist. I told you to get out of here. And so, by saying that they're opposite sides of the spectrum, you have people fighting against each other, and they're the same team, essentially. And so, the Republicans might lead us a little bit slower into the grave, than the Democrats will, who want to take us there on freaking speed trains or death trains to Auschwitz, but they're going in the same direction. So, and by saying that, everybody wants to pick a side. Well, whether you're a Democrat or a conservative, now everybody is against anybody who says that. Now you are the less than 1% extreme fringe freedomist who just wants everybody to have freedom, and that's just too much. So it's sad. The pouch. I don't know if the Beach and Tactical pouch will fit an SE4 sheath. I don't have an SE4. So I assume it will. It will fit almost anything. I'll do a video on it specifically, but it can attach via MOLLE. It can attach by eyelets with paracord. It can attach to a belt or other things through this slot, or you can do paracord around it through in here. So you can really attach these pouches to almost anything. Cyclist, I appreciate it, man, and the MSK1 test, Lord willing, is going to be a good one, and I have a little bit more to say about that situation, and that will get interesting. You're right, it is a circle. I did tell everybody about the Patreon, but once again, my Patreon link is in the description box below. You can give $1 or $2 a month, and I will find special things to do for my patrons. But right now, by donating to my Patreon, you are entering to win a K-Bar Mark II USMC combat knife, and you are helping me to get the same knife to test to the point of destruction. To test absolutely, and we'll see what it can actually do. So that right now is what you get from Patreon, is to see that video series, which will be extensive, and you get the chance to win one for yourself. Hopefully I'll have more to offer in the future. All right, so Joe, do I think that if the kid had sufficient counseling, they could have avoided the whole tragedy in Florida? They had ignored the warning signs and tossed him to the side. Whether or not I believe that sufficient counseling would have helped him could be irrelevant, because people as individuals all often need something a little bit different, and the potential for him to go to counseling and for nothing to have changed is always there. What is important to realize is that if he did not believe that the school was an easy target where he could murder a lot of people, he wouldn't have gone there, because psychos are typically also cowards. If he did still choose to go there, he should have been shot and killed. Now, there is always the potential for some psycho like this, because he is not coming from a position that society understands, to kill a few people. But the best thing to do is always to take responsibility for your self-defense. And if you teachers are responsible for the security of their students. So if as a teacher you are afraid to get a firearm in training to defend the students that are in your classroom, you need to resign. And you probably need to go live in a gutter, because you're a piece of garbage. So that is the responsibility of teachers. It is the responsibility of the principal and of the board to ensure that the school is a safe place. And if they can't ensure that it is, they shouldn't be around either. So whether or not counseling would have helped, it could have. They had the warning signs, but nobody is taking responsibility for the defense of these children. Furthermore, ultimate responsibility for any crime lies with the criminal, and I have no doubt that this Cruz kid will not be held responsible, and that's a shame. The CX4 PX4, isn't aren't those Streamlight lights? I'm not exactly sure. You'll have to clarify, Jeremiah. I'll get right on that as soon as you do. Ed Vickers, thanks, man. I'm a fan of orange. You know what I'm wearing on my feet right now? Orange Crocs. Oh yeah. So basically, I like things that aren't going to get lost, and that is legit. So I appreciate it, man. All right, CX4PX4. I can't really. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. Oh, the CX4 is a Beretta? I apologize for not turning my phone on silent. That is a failure on my part as a video dude. Okay, it's their Beretta carbine. Okay. So, Jeremiah, I've got your question about the CX4 PX4 combo or a CX4 Glock combo. I do not have the context for which you're asking the question. I'm assuming you're asking whether I think that that would be a good combo for a specific use. Pistol caliber carbines, I think, are a toy and not a tool. There are potentially exceptions for professional use, such as specific teams or team members that maybe want to have an MP5 or a Vector. But for the civilian, even in considering taking up arms against a tyrannical government, it doesn't so much have a place for someone with a limited budget as a tool. Now, of course, as a toy is a completely different topic altogether. And Beretta, to me, has not been awfully impressive, but I will need to understand your context to properly answer your question. So I'll wait for that. Nice. I didn't know that they had a disaster response team shirt, but that sounds pretty cool. So Joe 77. So he says that this Cruz kid was kicked out of school for having a knife for self-defense. I carried a knife in school for self-defense, and I saw people putting all kinds of knives and stuff in the lockers. And so after the school shooting that I experienced my sophomore year at Henry Foss High School, Tacoma, Washington, 2007, I reckon, Sam named Cock was shot by a kid. I don't remember his name, but he's in my PE class. But afterwards, I got on the radio and they asked me some questions, and one of the things I said, it was probably a pretty good little talk, but at the end, one of the things that I said was, everybody carries a weapon for self-defense. We have stuff happen here all the time. I'm just surprised that something like this hasn't happened earlier. And the radio for like the next 8 months played me saying just that little piece over and over, probably 100 times a day. Like every time they'd introduce you to this news channel. Welcome to blah, 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 Fox 5, Tacoma, Washington. I'm surprised it hasn't happened earlier, from little mini-me. So it's a reality, and even as a kid, men should always be considerate of self-defense, because there are always going to be psychos and dirtbags, and naturally as a people we understand that. Now, do I believe that a kid bringing a knife to school for self-defense is cause for alarm? No, because like I said, myself and everybody I know illegally carried a knife to school, and it shouldn't even be an issue. Carrying a knife to school shouldn't be a problem. Carrying a gun to school really shouldn't be a problem, but we live in a society that's broken, so it is. Cats, just stop. But anyways, yes, we definitely had warning signs. Cat, I'm not that interesting right now. Definitely had warning signs with this cruise kid, but they are going to harp on those warning signs because they want to spy on you, not because they want to do you a lick of good. All we're going to see is more Facebook monitoring, more YouTube monitoring, and more of our society going down the liberal Marxist crap hole. So, okay, I've missed some stuff. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think the pouches are going to be good. So Andy is the owner of Gadsden Dynamics, and he just does great work. So armed guards at school, yes, it would be expensive, and my school had armed guards. It didn't stop the shooting. We had police officers that were armed on the scene. But the thing is, ultimately, and I say that, teachers should be responsible for their children, but any training that the teachers are going to get is going to be absolutely insufficient. They will still be incompetent. And your armed security is not going to be any better, because anything the federal government touches, they're going to ruin. So understanding that is always step number one to understanding an issue and looking for ways to solve it. It's a hard thing to get around with our current system. Jeremiah, the CX4 carbine, PX4 pistol combos, same mags, different barrels, $1,200 with aftermarket triggers on the carbine and upgraded bore for both. So, if you're talking about crap hits the fan for self-defense with the pistol and maybe hunting with the carbine, potentially, there certainly could be benefits. It's just not the route that I personally would go. But tell me what you were thinking that you might use them for. If you've already gone that route, you can make it work. You can make anything work, especially with training and dedication and motivation. So I don't want to dissuade you from a decision that you've already made. If it's a decision that you're considering, then maybe if you tell me what you're thinking about, you can send me a private message or a message on Facebook or whatever. If you tell me what you're looking at and looking to get, then I would be very happy to give you my advice in what the best route to go could be. That's part of the... Okay, so we're getting into a lot of good stuff now. Yeah, Joe, so there were warning signs with this kid, including formal reports from the FBI. The Federal Bureau of Investigation works mostly with terrorism. So you're looking at a fairly serious scale, and what this should say to you is not necessarily how we as a society need to crack down on monitoring everybody. Because what this should say to you already is the vast and gross level of incompetence of our federal government which should signify that we need to move away from our federal government because they can't do anything. Like, I have been a part of the federal government like my whole life. It's, if you wanted a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you know, you would end up with freaking dirt and some goo. I mean, they are just absolutely entirely incompetent. But it's because everything in the government works as a socialist system, and socialism can never work. And so it's just an absolute failure. Just, if there's anything that we can take from this or anything else, is that the government is absolutely incapable of doing anything. All right. Matt Luta. So times are different. Bullying and hate are running rampant in schools, and the schools don't seem to want to do anything about it. I will tell you right now that growing up, I had a boy named Darren punch me in the face repeatedly, and I only tried to defend myself and never struck back at him because I was afraid of getting in trouble in middle school, and we both got equal suspensions because he was black. Racism and division will be fueled by our federal government and by our schools because they want this kind of stuff to be happening. They want this division. That is why our system is different. It comes down to the responsibility that they want people to think that they don't have to have. And I think part of what started to turn the lights on for me about our federal government after my trip to Afghanistan, what helped me put a lot of things together that I can talk about, was a better understanding of terrorism and how terrorism works, not to change the tides of war through conventional means and destruction of actual resources and abilities, but by making a people less confident in their government and by creating chaos. And so by creating chaos, you can create a strong ruling body over people that are in fear. And if you look in our society, every single segment of our society is defined by fear. People close to me in my life are scared to sit on toilet seats. They're scared to swim. They're scared to not wash their hands 12 times a day. Like, I was in Afghanistan in a nasty crap hole of a place, and you know, it's gross, but how many times did I wash my hands? Like 10? I don't know. I'm fine. Like, it's not to go into detail because I don't support it, but a new article was written on about how a lot of our needs for water filtration are not scientifically supported. They're based heavily on marketing. Obviously, we had people drinking from streams and rivers without filtration for a really long time, right? And yet, 20 years ago, it might not have been a big deal to go walk and drink from a stream and maybe know what to look for with your water source, of course. But now, that would be like outlandish, crazy. You'll get Guardia. So people live in fear of everything, and they want to live in these little sanitized, clean lives and become completely dependent on the system and the government that way. That's the goal. You cannot rebel, you cannot have freedom, and you cannot have freedom of thought if you're terrified of everything and you think that you need to rely on somebody else. Relying on somebody else for anything is how you become a slave if you have to, and that's what our entire society is. Jeremiah, that's another thing. Every one of these shootings, everybody tells you a different story, usually because crap doesn't add up because something has probably been fabricated. Like, how can we not get... I could shoot myself in the head right now, and they could identify blood splatter marks, they could identify my position, they could find out if somebody was holding my hand and pulled the trigger on that gun. But you're telling me that they can't figure out what goes on in these mass shootings that should be incredibly straightforward? And we get different stories from every source? It's propaganda. It's propaganda. Joe, they're not even going to have to use every excuse that they want to get our guns, because in a few generations, nobody's going to want guns. If you look at the people who own guns now, they don't even care about getting training. They don't even know why they own guns. So as soon as the population no longer knows why they own guns, and we've fallen to a rhetoric of sporting use and target use and hunting use, and you don't any longer understand why you have guns, then they're easy to take away. That's what's happening. The next generation, nobody will want to have guns. They'll be more worried about other stuff, and the slave state will have happened voluntarily. So, yeah, sheltering of children and stuff is something that we will struggle with. We're not going to put our kids in public school. We might homeschool, we might do private schooling, we might do some mixture therein, which is a lot of work for parents, which is why it's hard to do. But then on the other hand, how do you not shelter them from what's really happening? And the thing is, parents need to be talking to their children about the reality of politics, about the sickness that's out there, about how nasty stuff really is. And people are like, well, I want to protect my children and let them live as children while they can. Well, guess what? Your great-grandparents at the age of 9 were working 80 hours a week in a sweatshop. And then to go on vacation, they jumped out of planes and killed Nazis. This idea of this enforced, naive time is unnecessary, because guess what? Your little boys can be out there playing Indians and cowboys or paintball or whatever else and building forts, and their minds can be working as they grow into men. They learn to, you take a little boy out with an airsoft gun, he'll shoot innocent birds and kill them and not even know what to do with them, because naturally he's trying to learn how to be a man. And we're trying to take that away from people. Instead, what we need to do is teach them to kill those things and then what to do with them and how to eat them. We need to turn it into productive help. But to do these things and to groom our men into men that can, as a society, lead a nation, they have to be, there is this naive period. It's a bunch of flower power bullcrap. So yeah, I mean, it's a big responsibility, and I know that when I have children, I talk a big game now. I know that I will face a lot of difficulties that are greater than I expect at this point, but as long as I keep my personal responsibility or vision of responsibility where it needs to be, I know that I'll work hard to do what I believe is right. So it's not an easy way to go. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I really appreciate everybody who watched and commented, and you guys are the heart of this channel. As I've said, the links that you can check out my Gruntstyle link is below. You can use that to pick up some cool gear if you wish. And the link to my Patreon is below. And as soon as I figure out how to do tiers where I can give something back to patrons besides giving a knife that my goal is building up to, I will do that. But as it stands, I'm just getting started. This channel's taking a bit of a new direction. I appreciate all of you guys. I enjoy having these discussions. And I hope that you'll have a blessed night. Keep prepping, And real quick before I go, if anybody's still watching, I'll have to find the verse, but in Isaiah it talks about how the nation of Israel fell when it was led by women and children. And that is exactly what you will see, whether you're looking at Rome or the U.S. or anything else. You will find that nations become weak and they become led by women and children. Manhood dies. Patriarchy becomes the enemy because it represents what's right and what makes a nation work. This is the degradation of society. What you're witnessing today is your society going down the toilet bowl. So please continue to prepare in training, prepare physically, and prepare your mind, and prepare your families. Most importantly, family is the reason I'm no longer in the military, because of how I want to raise my children. So, have a blessed night. I hope that you guys can think on these things. If you ever have questions, feel free to ask them. And if you have things that you would like to see, go ahead and ask for them, and I will see if I can do videos on them. Thank you very much.